Finding baby Jesus. Marcia and Rodney are my parents. This story has been beloved in our family for years. I retell it with their permission. Marcia sat in the passenger seat of the car, back pressed into the cushion, anything but relaxed. In the driver's seat, her husband, Rodney, drove white-knuckled toward their home. Moments ago they'd been in the sealing room of the temple. A worker had brought them an urgent message that she'd hardly dared open. After all, workers at the temple didn't usually interrupt a sealing session with good news. Their home was on fire. Why? Her mind surged with the relentless question. Had they not been at the temple? Why would this happen when they were trying to serve the Lord? Where was the protection she'd prayed for? And why now? It was December 15th, only 10 days before Christmas. Just that morning, she'd been checking off items on a packed Christmas to-do list. She'd asked herself, where's Christmas in all this? Where's that feeling of joy and peace? And so she'd gone to the temple in search of that peace. She'd felt it there in abundance, until the worker had come in with the urgent news. Their teenage children, Michael and Janice, burst from the neighbor's house where they'd sheltered. 3 more, Brian, Carol, and Katie, would soon arrive home from school. She gathered the 2 who were there into her arms and hung on tight. Yes, there had been protection. It seemed like forever until they were allowed to go inside. Marcia turned from the new hole in the wall to find family photos, books, and records, which amazingly weren't damaged at all. The Christmas tree looked sad, but she could hardly believe it when she discovered the precious nativity set was safe. She displayed it on the bookcase that had stood against the wall that had been chopped out. There was no way they could live in the house while repairs were made. For one thing, the smell of smoke was nearly unbearable. They learned their homeowner's insurance would put them up at a nearby hotel while things were made livable again. But what would Christmas be like without a home? After they got settled at the hotel, Marcia plugged in a hot plate and made a quick dinner for the 7 of them. If there was ever an excuse to go out to eat, it was now, but she wanted to bring a tiny bit of normalcy to their upside-down lives. Trips through the drive-thru would come soon enough. As she spooned the pasta onto paper plates, she thought about the beautiful Christmas decorations they'd set up only a couple of weeks ago. What could she do to bring a little bit of Christmas to the utilitarian sparseness of a hotel room? Her mind immediately seized on the white porcelain nativity set she'd been so relieved to see was safe. Perfect. The next day, armed with a list of things to bring back to the hotel, the nativity set at the top of the list, she drove to the house. She hurried to grab laundry soap, homework, and a favorite doll. Then she stepped up to the box where the items from the bookshelf had been placed, including the nativity set. She picked up Mary and Joseph and found assorted angels and shepherds. She tucked them all into a soft blanket for safe transport. Then she saw sheep and cattle, the smooth porcelain gleaming in the dim light of the room. And though she looked carefully again and again, one piece was missing. Just one piece, but the most important piece. The figurine of the baby Jesus was gone. She searched the room without hope. Scraps of wood, wallboard, piping, and wires covered the room in a huge mess. Finally, coughing from the bitter air, she left. The nativity set remained behind. What was the point of a set with no Christ child? We lost him, she thought as she drove back to the hotel. Yet we still have to keep the spirit of Christmas this year. Somehow. And so they did. On Christmas Eve, they braved the smell that still lingered to go home for the evening, to gather around the once glorious Christmas tree and share what gifts they could manage, their testimonies of the Savior, and their many blessings. They were safe, and they had each other. A Christmas like no other, Marcia thought. We'll never forget this year. Despite the craziness of 7 people living in a hotel room, despite being separated from most of their comforts and belongings, they felt a deeper closeness as a family. She knew more clearly than ever that because of the Savior's birth, his life, and his atonement, her family could be together forever. At last, the workers finished the repairs to the point that the family could return to the house, while the finishing touches were completed. Marcia happily said goodbye to endless skillet dinners and long daily trips to the school and back. As spring approached, the snowy covering over the debris-piled backyard began to melt. "We could save money by doing the cleanup ourselves," Rodney said. The family agreed, and each week they filled the trash cans as full as they could before the trucks came around to empty them. Little by little, the yard began to clear, and the residual slime, and soot and dirt from the fire began to diminish. One day, after working in the debris, 13-year-old Brian came running toward Marcia. Cradled in his gritty hands was the missing figurine from the nativity set. "Look what I found, Mom. Baby Jesus." Brian found the lost baby Jesus nestled amidst the mess, a tender reminder of the Savior's inconspicuous and humble birth nearly 2,000 years ago. It was true. Marcia couldn't believe that in all the garbage, and after all that time, the figurine had been preserved. She put her arm around Brian's shoulders. "This is to remind us that the Savior remains with us and for us," she said. Inside, she felt a measure of peace and meaning, though not just for Christmas time. This was a precious reminder that his was a gift for all seasons. There may be those who cast him aside, but those who seek will truly find him.